Okay guys, so today in this video, we're going to be going over the Fiddlesticks changes that have happened for the rework that's going to be going on. So I'm going to give you guys kind of my thoughts, going over each of the abilities. I haven't seen this champion yet, so it's going to be kind of on the fly. And then I'll probably set up some rune setups that I think will be really reasonably good on the champion, as well as like build paths and stuff. So we'll just jump right into the video and kind of check out each of the skills, bits by bit, and we'll just go off of that. So, let's see here where the abilities are. So, it seems like he can actually set up Fiddlesticks clones now. So, let's look at each of the skills. So, a harmless Scarecrow, which seems to be his passive. Then he still has the point and click fear, which is pretty good. Now, Bountiful Harvest seems like he can drain life from multiple targets now. So that'll actually be really interesting because it makes me kind of curious the power level of it, maybe in the jungle, like doing AoE clears now. Now, his E used to be a silence. It doesn't seem like that is the case anymore. It seems like it just stops channelings. I wonder if they're applying that to the kind of champion in that sense. And then Crowstorm is obviously the same, where it jumps in and does AoE damage. The most important thing in this champion is actually really the passive change that's seemingly happening. So let's go back to that real quick. And we'll just kind of go brick by brick on each of the abilities and kind of see what's going on. So he can actually set up fake clones and bait people in, which is kind of interesting. And I feel like for the most part, it's actually way more powerful when it comes to the jungle levels. But I'm going to try and focus mostly on support, since this is going to be mostly a support video. So, since Terrify is still basically the same, one of the setups that you can easily run on a champion like Fiddlesticks still is running the Aftershock. You'll probably take a setup, let's see. Here, I'll just show visually a rune setup that I could potentially take on this champion. So, if you're against maybe something that all-ins you quite frequently, so Leona and Nautilus are easy ones to referendum for it, you'll probably do something like this where you end up taking the Aftershock. Font of Life is still okay-ish, mostly if you can't pressure the turret. Demolish will be better if you can pressure the turret, and in most cases you'll probably be opting into Bone Plating, because if you're taking the Resolve Tree anyway, you want to be tanky. His passive is a Trinket. Oh yeah, his passive is a Trinket. That is true, that's true. So you can set it up. You can set it up like a lot easier by just trinketing and like baiting people into plays, and then kind of utilizing the brushes in that sense. I think the rework for the most part is not going to change too much. I think a lot of people think about the Fiddlesticks baiting as the primary change that's the most important thing. I think that's really cool, and it allows a lot more intuitive play for the champion, kind of in the same way that you always have to pay attention to LeBlanc clones and Shaco clones. I think keeping track of this champion will be way, way harder. So I think that his power level definitely goes up just with that. And I think the unfamiliarity and angles that the champion can create makes him quite potent in this sense. Now, so if I was trying to run a setup where I was just not trying to die and I was a CC bot for support, it would take something like the Aftershock. And then after that, you can either opt into Legends Tenacity, or you can just go here for the Biscuits and the Perfect Timing, since you'll definitely run into some issues where you'll have mana problems going into the Resolve Tree as you're not opting into Mana Flow Band. And obviously Perfect Timing, since you'll probably still be building Zonias as the first item. Now, the main thing to talk about too is kind of the E chains that we saw. The E ability, which is the Reap. So one thing to note is that in most cases when you used to play Fiddlesticks support, you would max or put you put a couple points in the E and you'd use it to push waves. Now, this skill seems like it still does some level of AoE damage, but obviously it's not something that you're going to be spamming on abilities. And as you can kind of see right there, it is an interrupt in channels. It's not a silence itself. So that actually reduces the amount of CC that you're going to end up having in a lot of circumstances. So that is directly, in my opinion, a nerf, but it's kind of a buff to clearing camps. Another thing to note too is the W as the channeling heal. You will be able to channel it seemingly on multiple targets. Mostly changes for doing AoE clear on camps, but what this does mean though is fighting in a minion wave is substantially stronger on Fiddlesticks. So the likelihood that you actually end up doing the old build, which is kind of like you're running the Comet, Mana Flow Ban, you're just running full Harass, and you're spamming E on the wave, won't most likely be used. So this rune page will most likely just die because of the fact that you can't poke people nearly as well. So basically the options that you'll usually end up having is the Aftershock build that I showed you right there, or the other option will be something like Domination. Since you obviously do a front-loaded amount of damage with your ultimate, if you feel like it, you could also run kind of a snowbally AP-ish build rather than a tank and CC build with something like this, where we'll take something like, Zombie Ward or Ghost Poro. We'll take Ultimate Hunter to reduce the ultimate cooldown, and we'll run Dark Harvest. That combined with Sudden Impact will give you a lot of extra spell pen when you're jumping in on people, and this will be more like an AP carry one-shot build, rather than the tanky setup that I was showing you before. This is probably going to be a more common setup if you're playing against an AP support. So anything ranging from like enchanters like Nami and Janna to something like Zyra, etc. Things that don't really have great all-in for you and don't really give you a lot of availability to actually walk up and fear people. This will probably be kind of the setup that you run. The secondary is mostly up to you based on like what you're more comfortable with, but I think Perfect Timing and Biscuits will solve most of your issues with basically mana in the early stages and any health that you lose getting poked. Plus, just always having the stopwatch is kind of nice because it's good for the team fight, and plus it builds into the Zhonya's anyway, which is just kind of a starting point for extra gold. So this is probably what you'll end up running most of the time, with Aftershock is kind of being a fringe, oh, they're going to all-in me and I can't protect myself, so Aftershock kind of solves that. In terms of build path, for the most part, you're going to build them purest AP, though. First item is basically mandatory that you build the Zhonya's in most cases, and you'll probably get Sorcerer Shoes on top of that. Now, since I don't see great harass on this champion, I actually most likely going to be taking Relic Shield on this champion in the early stages. Because of the fact that it's probably just going to be hard for you to constantly cycle the Spell Thieves and harass people in that regard. So that's more likely what you're going to end up doing. After that, it's mostly dependent on your gold numbers and how comfortable you are with the game after the Zhonya's is built. You can build more utility items like Shirelias for the extra movement speed. Maybe this game is going really well and you have Dark Harvest, you have the Spell Pen boots and you build Zhonya's. You could go an Oblivion Orb for extra pen and Void Staff. That would give you basically the most amount of damage possible. Or Rylai's Leandries in that case too, if you're looking for more AoE rather than just focus target damage. So all of these are very, very easy, but you're mostly going to build purest AP, just standard AP items, just making sure that you get a Void Staff, probably second or third is a mandatory. But anyway, my thoughts on this champion is that I think that he'll be really hard to harass out of lane, and he'll be really, really strong if you learn how to use the trinket wards to bait people in. But I think he'll actually lose a lot of lane pressure because of the fact that the E is being changed and no longer bounce and push and allow him to get pressure in that sense. I think he'll be a great team fighter, but he might struggle pre-level 6 to get through the laning phase. And probably actually what you'll end up doing is leveraging this Bountiful Harvest to just get harass yourself and then lifesteal all the way back up and fight in the minions, and potentially 2v3 like ganks and stuff like that is probably where I see a lot of his strength in the early stages. You'll want to reduce the cooldown of this no matter what. The E only silences if people are in the middle of the crest. Okay, noted for that. W hardly heals you on minions. Reduce to 15% versus minions. Yeah, but if you're draining all the minions and there's 6 of them, then you'll be in good shape, right? Okay, so no one can see me here. So then I walk out. I'm just looking for any harass I can get. So we just put a fear on him, and we just push the wave. And since we have push on the wave, we're in good shape. Also, I need to set all these up for smart cast. Cool, we're good now. So since we have the push... Oh, that's how it works, huh? And we can just fear him. Why did my spells not work? Oh, hold on. Do that. Okay, cool. And we can just scythe him afterwards, dump the ignite, and we already got a kill on that guy, most likely. Ooh, not quite. Okay, so then you can just put these in the brushes. And then anytime someone face checks, you're in really good shape in that regard. So since he can't see me in the brush, It also interrupts channels. Oh, yeah, I did see that. You know, actually, what wouldn't be too bad on this champion instead of Ultimate Hunter is going the activation cooldown reduction, because then it would go into use this trinket right here. So the biggest problem that I'm seeing right now, obviously, is the champion doesn't push very well. So, like, if I use this on the wave, does that even really help that much? Not really. And then we can put a fear on this guy. Just auto-attack him as much as possible. You actually do a decent amount of auto-attacking in your combos for the time being. So what I want to end up seeing is once this wave pushes in, I want to see how much life I can actually steal off of all the minions. Now, their support is pretty low on HP, so if I can ping him and flash fear him, and then use the scythe right here and just drain everybody the entire time, and we can score a kill right there. So I think actually what was the most optimal thing was to flash and then use E, because I'm not, I'm stealthed, right? Like, I'm in the passive thing. And then by doing that, you can actually then fear them and get more damage off of your Q early. So, okay, let's see how much this heals for. So the damage is pretty low. Like, you're not going to actually sustain that much off of minions. Your autos work on that too? Okay, so your autos actually work too. So, actually, what you should do is you should take Hextech Flash on this. You should definitely take Hextech Flash on this champion, because being able to flash from the brush is really, really valuable for laning phase. So a way that you could do it is instead of taking Stopwatch, you just go Hextech Flash, and then you can just constantly Hextech Flash over and over again onto players that are playing really far up, and you'll be in good shape. So he used Fear on me, but I can use Fear on him now and just full drain this guy. And they don't have enough damage to kill me, so we can just keep getting the harass off. Basically, whoever uses the drain first is in trouble. So yeah, this champion with Hextech Flash would actually be really OP. But I think Relic is definitely the right thing to go instead of Spell Thieves. I think Spell Thieves is just not the move, because it's just too hard for you to stack it the entire time. So I'm just staying away from the brush right now, because he has the brush control and he can kill me since his Ignite's up. So actually what I'll do is I'll just take a reset right here. There's no actual reason for me to be in lane anymore. So we'll actually then fake our back, and then we'll silence him and put a fear on him, dump the Ignite, and he should be able to finish that guy off. Really good. And we actually ended up just trading kills right there, which is totally fine. Yeah, so you want to use the E first to fear them, and then afterwards you use the Q afterwards. So that way you're like min-maxing the amount of DPS you're able to throw out on someone, since it does missing health damage too. And it seems like this scales for 2% every 50 AP, which is pretty good. So I think the most regrettable thing is just having perfect timing instead of having Hextech Flash, though. I think this champion with Hextech Flash and against like melee champions will actually do pretty well. But for the most part, if you're against a melee champion, I would probably recommend that you take Aftershock, because it's just so easy for you to end up dying. Plus, if you have Aftershock at the same time, then while you're also channeling the heal, it just amplifies the value of the effective health that you're draining back. Most of what you're waiting for is just your ulti on this champion for the time being. The count goes in if you're listening to me. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And we will just last hit for the time being until our AD carry gets here. But yeah, it definitely feels conclusionary that you want to always go Relic. One thing to note too is when you level up the Q, not only does the Q fear go up, but so does the passive. Okay, so we're just going to fear this person in. Since he's stuck over here, we just want to activate our drain and just put as much pressure as possible. Now, since our spells are coming back up, we'll just keep walking forward. And since the Ezreal blinked in and died, we have pressure now. And since my fear is back up, we can actually set up something once the traps are back up. So he walks back up. We use our fear. And we drain. And make sure that we don't die under the turret. And this will be like a good testament to how much healing the W does. And the healing, by the way, you don't have to click on anything when you have it, like smart casted. So that's also another positive. Just goes on all of the minions around him. For the most part, I feel like the drain is more moved into either draining a player or draining minions. So we're going to wait for the Ezreal to walk up. Then we can fear him, make him miss a minion. You guys were jerks. And what we want to do now is just push this in while we have pressure. Because the enemy Fiddlesticks is going to show up soon. So I'm just healing and just pushing this as far as possible. Especially since our relic is coming back up. So just want to put a fear in. Use the E for the CC. And the bonus damage. And we just need to get out of here. So I'm going to actually channel ult right here. And since, and we can fear him afterwards. Since it's coming out of stealth. Our ulti actually auto-fears him, which actually makes the value of the ultimate absolutely crazy. That makes it super, super powerful. So obviously, first item, you just want to go Zhonya's, 100%. So just always, always, always get the Zhonya's. We're going to get the arm guard, just be tankier in the lane. But this really means that the ultimate is so overpowered because you don't even have to use the Q for it. But it does mean that what you want to do is 100% max the Q first. Because obviously, right, you're ulting in and you want the fear to last as long as possible. So because of that, you're going to want to 100% max this out first. Free Terrifies? Yeah, that's pretty overpowered, actually. The fact that it can go off of the ulti. So once you hit level 6, the champion feels really, really good. I think that Aftershock will probably be better. In some of your matchups, but no matter what, I think what you'll want is precision secondary, or not precision, inspiration secondary, and try Hextech Flash. Because then, because you can use this to just basically sweep wards in a lot of ways, then you'll always be in good shape in that regard. Because you'll just be permanently using the passive, and then being able to leverage it with Hextech Flash means that you can just create so much pressure. These actually store up to 3 of them, though, so maybe you don't really need the item CDR that I was talking about originally. Now that I've seen the power level of the ult, I would definitely still say Ultimate Hunter is probably the best, because the ult just seems just not balanced, for sure. So we'll just chill here for a second. And remember that our ult actually CCs people, so it's really, really OP. And we're just chilling in this brush. You'll just want to do brush control like a lot. But I think Zombie Ward is completely fine right now. So we'll just look for this right here. And our ulti automatically procs this. So I didn't even use my Q there to kind of see how much damage your ulti does. That was without Q, just using the E and silencing. So I think the problems this champion runs into as support is obviously you don't have great push, but if you can fight for the control of the brush, this champion seems to do really, really well at front-loading damage. It feels like the ult just like kind of slaughters people now, especially if you go Dark Harvest, which I think the rune page, the tree is actually pretty decent for this champion just because Ultimate Hunter is such a high premium because of the fact that it's really hard for you to get CDR on this champion. Like, you build Zhonya's, and then you should be building, like, pretty much pure damage. So, it's kind of just like you have to do that. So, what I'm looking at right now is that I would probably just rather max the E second. And we can just fear this guy out. Now, there's a Fiddlesticks coming over here and channeling ult, maybe. So, I'm just going to ditch the AD carry because they're way too low right now. And I can't help them since my ult's on cooldown. Now, one thing that'll actually be nice on this side of the map is this right here, where you can actually just walk over and drain life onto the minions. It actually seems like the healing does pretty negligible amounts, even for the minion camp. So that is something to note. So we're going to walk up because we have Dark Harvest. And I'm just baiting right now. So we'll ward in here. We'll fear him so that my teammate can start catching up. And Rek'Sai's pinging on his way, so I'm still walking. But we actually got Fog of Ward, so he was actually able to fear me. All interesting mechanics that go on right now. Keeping track of whether or not like someone can see you is super, super important. Because if you can, then you can play a lot of mind games with them. So like for example, right, like he's playing really far up. So because of that, we can just channel ulti right here. And we can flash in, and that fears him. But he feared me at the same time, so we weren't quite able to get him. But a good jump on by my teammate ended up scoring the kill. So one thing to note that happened there that I wasn't really fully aware of was that... I'm just going to spam fear on him to see if he walks up. Was that because my ulti didn't directly land on top of the other guy, my ulti didn't fear them. So that is one thing to note if you're ulting from really, really long away, is that if you're ulting from really long away, you still will need to use your Q to fear them. So your positioning like matters a lot. So we'll just dump Ignite and Drain for as long as I can survive, and then we'll just kind of die after that. Now, if you're against a lane that maybe all-ins you a lot, so like we'll use the examples of Nautilus's and Leona's, right? Then potentially putting 2 or 3 points in the W to heal yourself up in a matchup is actually completely fine. So that is like an option on the table that you could use. So now we've completed the full Zonias. And after that, it's kind of just like the world is your oyster when it comes to setting up items. So for the most part, I'd probably recommend that if you're going to go a build like this, which is Sorcerer Shoes and the Zonias, after that, if there's not too much magic resist on the enemy team, building an Oblivion Orb into Void Staff is what you're going to 100% do, just to have as much one-shot power as possible. Now, if people are building a lot of magic resist, you don't want to build the Oblivion Orb because they just get value out of it. So let's say like they're just building a lot of Mercury Treads is what you're kind of running into. Then your build will look a little bit different. Your build will be, instead of Oblivion Orb, you'll just go Leandries into Void Staff. And then after that, you'll still want to make a good habit of buying pinks as much as you possibly can and just looking for brush jumps on people. So they can't see me anymore because the ward has been kind of like swept out basically. But Relic seems pretty essential in most cases on this champion. So a lot of it is just controlling max Q then W. You'd max the Q and then the W if you're getting all in, basically. And then you'd max E if you're in more control of it. One thing to note is like maxing the points doesn't really do anything here. So I can ult right here, and then I just CC everybody, and I can just drain them, and then we use the fear at the end to kind of like execute damage. That's kind of like how the full combo will look for you when you're jumping on people who are a bit tankier. Also, I've been doing it very incorrectly, but your passive, your W, you can use it in a way that allows you to control the direction of what it jumps. So you need to make sure that you're also kind of doing that, which is not something I've been doing very correctly. Seems like a lot of the power is pushed into your ulti, though. Like, your kit comes together really, really well when your ulti was hitting people from Fog of War, but if that is not the case, then you can kind of run into some issues for sure. Ooh, actually, I got one shot over the wall. Okay. So for this game, since most of them aren't building too much magic resist, I'm going to end up going for the Oblivion Orb, and then we'll build a Void Staff after that. Yeah, this is the new Fiddlesticks. Kind of showing it off and seeing what it's about and like what it's good at, what it's bad at, etc. So the most discovery I need left on this champion is kind of like learning the passive. Learning to place effigies that sit there so that they can kind of like mess with people in that sense. And I was actually incorrect. I misspoke. You can charge up to 2 of them. Every 75 seconds is not too bad, though. I think this champion really comes online, though, at level 11 once you have some CDR so that you can actually cycle your ultimate quite frequently. Because when you don't have your ultimate, it kind of feels bad to play this champion. Also, a thing to note, too, is this effigy doesn't reach all the way into the brushes. So, like, if you want him to be, like, activated as a pink ward, you need to be doing it in such a way that... Hold on. And then we can just drain right here, because I don't have anywhere else to go. And we'll just silence them right now. We'll get over the wall. And we're going to have to play a juke. Oh my goodness, there are so many people here, though. But the ult seems to have a lot of power pushed into it. Anytime you want to jump over and just basically blow anyone up, you're pretty much guaranteed to kill. Especially if you're running Dark Harvest, that'll push your damage over the numbers, like, pretty hard. And a lot of these times when I'm jumping over the wall and ulting, I'm not even draining them and basically killing them anyway. So that should tell you, like, basically the amount of sheer power that's pushed into just, like, your ulti and your fear. Do you think FIDDLE best excels as a jungler? Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of these changes are just way better for jungle than it is for support. Since, obviously, you know, ganking from brushes and stuff like that seems to be how you want to play this champion. Plus, like, having a good gold income to be able to buy all these items is very important. I think he can function as a support, but it's not as good as jungle. I think if you can pair him with something that can fight for the brushes, though, then he can work fine, for sure. But I think he might run into some issues where maybe he's too squishy and too easy to all in for, like, some of the traditional supports. Which is where, like, Aftershock might come in handy really, really well. But Aftershock has been nerfed, so, like, those are things to note. One thing to note, too, is the Q has a lot longer cooldown than it used to. So, like, cycling the passive is really important. Yeah, this champion feels like a really, like, if I'm winning, it feels really good to play it. And if I'm losing, it feels kind of bad to play it. Also, another thing to note, too, is, like, setting up effigies that jump out like that. So they see me right here, so I'm just going to start scooting back a little bit, reposition a little bit. Just always want to look for fog of war jumps, is what you're looking for. So the jungler is down here, and I can just go in on this. Oh, one thing to note that I just tried to do was, it didn't feel like I could W and then Zhonya's. So I need to try that again. But that did not work. But it also might have been because I accidentally queued at the same time. So then we'll have Oblivion Orb pretty soon. Looks like my team's doing pretty well in this team fight. And I think I'm just going to end up waiting in the base. I don't think I need to sell my pink. I can just wait in the base for the Oblivion Orb. This should bump my damage a lot. So, ideally, I think the way you want to do things is you want to ulti in, and if it activates your fear, then you use your Reap afterwards to silence them. And then you probably just want to Q immediately after that, because then they should have taken, like, a decent amount of damage. And then after that, like, you W and Zhonya's. If you were looking for, like, a full min-max DPS combo for when you jump in, that's probably what you're looking at for whatever you want to do when it comes to scoring kills. Nocturne mid? Oh, this champion actually would be pretty crazy with Nocturne mid. I didn't even think about that. Nocturne ults, and then you just run around and you just cast spells on anybody you want, and all your spells fear people. That would actually be the most comical stuff ever. Let's see. Yeah, the damage is pretty negligible on, like, the W for minions. Per damage over 2 seconds with the final tick ticking missing health. Okay, yeah. So you'd want a W last with, like, the Zhonya's. That's basically what you're looking at. So I'm just kind of looking for any jumps that I can get on anybody playing too far up in mid. Now remember your effigy spots. Your effigy spots, like, wards, so Want to always have them in the brushes. Oh, that was a really weird interaction. Both of the effigies, like, didn't proc off of each other very well. The champion's power level is also tied really, really hard to your flash. But we have the Trainermere splitting right now, so we're in good shape. Ideally, once we hit level 11, we'll be really, really strong. But until then, you're going to struggle a little bit with everything. So what I want to do, actually, is I want to kind of start sneaking into the bottom side. Because everyone's pretty worried about me being in this brush. So we'll just try and change brushes to see if we can try and sneak out a jump. But unfortunately, there's a pink ward here, so there's not too much we can do in that sense. So I can actually ult right here and then just fear him because my Trainermere's here. And just score a kill right there. No need to even use the Zhonya's. It seems like my damage falls off really, really hard, though, if you don't snowball. That is one thing that I'm kind of noticing. It was significantly easier to kill people at, like, level 6, but as people start getting levels, the champions seems to do way less. So we can fear this, and then we can just channel heal, drain into this. And then we use our Zhonya's right here, and he's going to try to channel his ult. So I'm going to flash out. And then we walk back in because our fear is coming back up. Use the scythe and then just drain afterwards. But the drain for recovering HP is terrible. It's actually like really disappointing how little healing this does for anything basically. So we'll just take another reset. Oh, this is actually real. So I'll start walking towards him. I should be able to catch him with the Ari walking over. Oh, never mind. Just a prank. And we'll just take another reset right here. And then you'll want to build a Void Staff after this. You don't want to finish the Morellos. You just want to get the Oblivion Orb for the double spell pen. Because we're also reminding you that we're taking sudden impact. So that gives us 6 extra magic pen on our ulti that's jumping. So that's why we want like this kind of a setup for one-shotting. But we don't care about the healing reduction. So we just want to get Void Staff now to get flat pen. But most of this champion is just kind of sitting in brushes. So if you're there before the other players to get the vision down, you'll love this champion. But if you're in a losing position, you might run into a lot of issues where it's really hard for you to do anything in this game. So my teammate's fighting over here. I'm just going to scythe him and fear him. And we just want to stack on top of him so we can get the drain off. So I'm trying to put more points in the W to see if that like does something, makes it feel like it's impactful that I'm draining enough HP. But for the most part, I'm going to be honest with you, after you max the Q, it seems like you can make arguments for both. You can max the W next if you feel like you're getting all in a lot, or you can max the E if you just want to front load damage. The E is better at like front loading damage if like you jump in and you fear someone and you just want to kill someone instantly. And we can just exit and get this dragon right here. It's kind of interesting to also be able to put these effigies kind of like in areas that are very obvious to kind of distract people. I think that'll be like kind of the biggest skill expression that the champion will have, is just being able to mind game people with the effigies. So we'll see if anyone walks in on this. I'm just kind of taking a bunch of angles to see if I can jump on somebody. And we'll just fear this guy because he's right in front of us. So let's say, for example, you couldn't build AP in a game, though. So let's say like you're maybe playing Aftershock or something. So what would you build after Zhonya's is what maybe some people would ask me. Like you're taking Aftershock or you're just like too far behind to reasonably build AP. Then what you can do is probably just go things like Shurelya's. I think Shurelya is like completely reasonable to go. Just things that give you CDR, basically, is kind of what you would end up doing. Shurelya's, Redemption, those are all, like, completely reasonable things. Banshees, if you're behind, it's probably not worth to build Banshees. You're just trying to build, like, things that give you CDR that give your team utility. So this is probably one of the rare times where, like, I would suggest, like, actual support items if you were, like, struggling. So we can just Zonia's right here. And then when we come out, we want to fear the Garen, not the Fiddlesticks. Because the Garen's the primary one that could potentially kill anyone. Zeke's seems kind of interesting. Yeah, Zeke's could actually be not too bad, too. You could convince me on, like, a Zeke's if you're Aftershock and you're just going in. Getting the AoE CC and stuff. So, my overall thoughts on the champion. It seems interesting. I feel like the effigy will really be a make or break for, like, the support, how well you use that. If you have an AD carry that can play aggressively and fight with you for the brushes, the champion will feel really strong and oppressive. But if you can't fight for the brushes, so let's say, example, Ezreal, right? You have an Ezreal who can't push the waves, then you could run into a lot of problems where the champion's power level is really limited because you can't access the brushes to, like, harass people and jump on them. Anyway, guys, hope you guys found this video helpful. That's my roundup for the Fiddlesticks rework. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment in the section below. See you guys later.